Okay, hello and welcome back. I am just Donna, and we are since we finished the Shadow over Cyberspace. I have not actually done another run through it because work. So now we are catching up on When Stars Collide, which updated while I was in the middle of the Shadow over Cyberspace, but I didn't want to pause that. I wanted to get through it. So all of the VODs for the Shadow over Cyberspace are up on YouTube in a playlist, so if you want to watch my playthrough all the way through, keep in mind there's basically a week between each video of me playing it. That's just the way it works for me. So two new chapters, and then one chapter today, one chapter next week, and then back to World of Warcraft, The War Within. I double checked which Warcraft game I played last, and it was Classic. So we're gonna go back to The War Within. I got Justana to the max level, I think it was 70. So she'll be ready for the quests that are only available at that level. So let's see. All of this. Okay. Looking at the date, October 30th. That was a couple days after my birthday. I won't say which one. Let's just say I was born in the 80s and leave it at that. My teacher, I'm taking paralegal courses, and my teacher was talking about a case that was decided in the 70s, and he's like, yeah, it's a 50-year-old case, and I'm thinking, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so we're going to actually overwrite that save, so it's chapter 3. And back we go. Escape velocity. Ooh. Oh, I need to click. I like that transition. I imagine it'll take at least a few days if you want a really detailed manifest, assuming the first couple of crates are anything to go by. That's right. I don't even remember what I picked. I have my notes here. Oh, that's not part of the notes. That's separate. Okay. Hang on. Did I get them out of order? Or did I just not write down my choices? Yeah, it looks like I didn't write down my choices for my actual playthrough. I guess because, you know, I'm streaming it, so I'd have it read. So, anyway. I'm assuming they, them pronouns. Well, to be fair, we only opened 2, but I'm assuming the others are similar. Not sure what the goal was of putting these items there with the stasis cube, so I can't quite predict what might be in the rest of the containers. The ones we looked at seemed a bit random. It's odd. Well, you'll have plenty of time, Lane, and Daz will help you out, so it probably won't take as long as you might think. We might be able to pull Cav out from the labs to help too. Tech is more his area. Good luck with that endeavor. I think he's buried himself in something down there again. The entire research team is flustered about the dimensional sphere we found Lane in. So I don't know how much help he'll be if he's running between Lab 02 and 03 non-stop. In any case, I don't know how much of it will interest him. It might not be only bits of Valayan tech in there. there are an awful lot of crates to look through, and we did only open 2. There might be, I don't know, Valayan paintings or something in the rest of them. Even if it's just more environment, suits, and batteries, it's still fascinating. If we can't drag Cav out of the lab, I'll be happy to help you catalog all of it. Come to think of it, this is the 3rd or 4th time I've heard the name Cav, but I still haven't met him. Yes, him. The last potential love interest. We have Asher, Daz, Cav, Noel, Rafe, Uren, and Cav is the only one we haven't actually encountered. Though, if you get the extra scene with Noel, you do meet Cav that way, but the character Will hasn't yet. Does he ever leave the lab at all? We told you those guys don't get out much. Cav gets out more than anyone else, but even he disappears for days on end when they get him stuck on something down there. So there's a reason I haven't fully committed to the relationship with Asher in the stream, because I wanted to meet Cav. So who exactly is he anyway? Is he Terran? Well, he'll eventually surface, I guess. We're gonna pick this one. Seriously though, who is he anyway? Terran maybe? Cav didn't sound like a strictly Terran name, and it was a multicultural crew, but I assumed R&J were Terran, so they could be inclined to hire more Terrans than other species. He's not Terran, actually. Oh, hello. I jumped at the unexpected voice. Who? Someone came in without me sensing them? The speaker was standing in the door, his voice husky as if he recently woke up. Based on his disheveled appearance, that might not be too far from the truth. Ooh. Hello. Hope you're not disappointed. When he spoke again, I realized there was a faint mechanical whine at the tail end of his words. I'm assuming it has to do with this here? He had a cybernetic implant of some sort to help him speak, visible as 2 small notes on his throat, where a faded scar with ragged edges spread out. Aside from that, he looked like a typical humanoid, not Terran, but what then? Because people did not sneak up on me, basically ever. But I wasn't picking up anything at all, not even the slightest hint of emotion, much less any stray thoughts. It was just silence. Almost like a void in the background thrum of everyone else's emotions. He had other cybernetics, one on the side of his head, as well as an arm, so that could mean a synthetic. But even if he was, he'd still have thoughts and emotions. I didn't have a problem sensing things from inorganic species too, so this was unusual. Cav gave me a smirk as he moved from where I was leaning in the door and further into the room. Tapping his head as he shuffled past, he didn't speak again. What does that mean? Cav is Chimerian. I'm not sure you've heard of the species? Chimeria is a T-class Terran world with subtype H. Though habitable, it has little surface water and precipitation and is prone to extreme heat during the day hours due to its 3 suns. Oof. I haven't. They're isolationists, so not much is known about them or their world other than the fact that it's a desert planet in a trinary system. They aren't a part of the UCW. There's a loud cough from the kitchen I thought was a laugh at first. But Cav poked his head out a second later, cheeks puffed out like a chipmunk. More wheezing coughs escaped as he apparently choked on whatever he'd shoved in his mouth. To pray. Try swallowing first. Right, Daz? Hi, James. Cav held up a finger as he turned away and presumably swallowed that before he took a swig of the steaming coffee in his mug. Then he coughed more and panicked as he burned his tongue. I shot Daz and the others a look. He's the only one like this, I swear. Uh-huh. I said we're immune to telepathy, so I can't hear a damn thing you say unless you say it out loud. His voice was still hoarse after all that coughing. You okay, Cav? Fine. Immune, huh? There were races like that, too. Those with natural defenses that kept their thoughts out and their own thoughts in. They were uncommon, though. That I knew of. I'd never encountered one. Chimerian, huh? I wondered if they were new to the interstellar community. This is Lane Nymera, and you already know who she is. Oh, right. She. In a new game in that it's not the Shadow over cyberspace. This is actually the 3rd chapter of the game. I streamed it the end of October, the first 2 chapters, so they're up on my YouTube channel. But it's called When Stars Collide by Steamberry Studios. You already know who she is, Lane. This is Kavisari Tayang. He's a lab assistant and our xenotechnology specialist. Of course, we all call him Cav. And he is, as you see. What's that supposed to mean, Lair? Laren just gestured at him as if that explained everything on its own, which it kind of did, as a matter of fact. So, those dark circles are impressive, buddy. When was the last time you slept properly? Kato! Arms! Who knows? You don't have to let the others run you ragged, you know. You're allowed a break. Lane and I were just talking about the Valayan haul and cargo, too. She's going to be helping me catalog the items. Looks like there's a bit of tech in there. Planning to come and have a look at it? It would get you out of the lab for a bit. Why should I? You have a better expert than me already. My job's to identify what's useful and what's trash, or figure out what your stray trinkets do, not to help make a boring list. Oh, back in the sparkly vampire territory? No. There's no vampires. Thought the visual style was similar. But I can understand why you thought that with Daz here. You're not at all curious about what's in there? Kid, I don't get paid nearly enough to be curious. I heard your salary's pretty good, though. You're a scientist, Cav. Your job is literally to be curious about things. My job is to make sure no one on the ship blows themselves up while poking into pyramids and dimensional spheres and dragging weird shit out of them. And you have someone else to help with that this time, so... He shrugged as he came to our table and flopped down, then kicked his feet up on a nearby chair and gave me a crooked grin. That said, I'm surprised you're helping us figure out what all those items are like, little Scion. I expected you'd be hiding in the hold and sitting on the pile like a dragon. Imagine my astonishment when they told me you were out here interacting with us mere mortals like a normal person. A dragon? Aren't you half Terran? And you don't know dragons? I'm a quarter Terran, and no, I don't. What? How can they not know dragons? I guess Scions are too advanced to remember legends like dragons and the like. The Valayans have their legends and myths too, just not dragons, I guess. Or maybe they do have dragons. Maybe I wasn't there long enough to delve that far back into their history. Heh, what a shame. Daz here would probably love to know more about Valayan ancient history. Guess he's out of luck, even if I'm not. Cav. Why does it sound like you're trying to pick a fight? Hey, I'm just striking up a conversation, you know, all nice and friendly-like. The Washington Sciences Cato chided him for being snarky to the new person. He was odd, that was certain, and I couldn't help but be a little distracted by his voice. It sounded almost completely organic, except that faint mechanical undertone. It was strange because there were better cybernetics available even 500 years ago. Valayan wanderers and loners had used them all the time. It was curious that his were so old school. I didn't realize I'd been staring until he spoke to me again, a sardonic smile on his face. It was a boating accident. Terrible business. Lost the arm at the same time, actually. You were wondering about the scar, right? I apologize. I didn't mean to stare. No worries. I'm used to it. How did you have a boating accident on a desert world? For real. How did you have a boating accident on a desert world exactly? It was a very small boat. Must have also been a very small body of water, too. Size doesn't matter, my dear. I think when it comes to boating accidents, size might matter. Don't listen to him, Lane. I've heard at least 3 stories relating to the arm alone. The boating accident seems to be the current favorite, that's all. Is that so? I see. So he either didn't want to discuss it, which was fair since I shouldn't have been staring, or he's just enjoyed provoking people for amusement, which was also fair, to be honest. But now I knew not to ask, and to not take his excuses seriously. Well, anyway, as much as I'd love to stick around and delve into all your mysterious space wizardry, I promised Trevi I'd be in the lab early today. Oh, space wizard, huh? So that was spreading. Lovely. I must have Rafe to thank for that. They're still all worked up over that dimensional sphere, and I guess my expertise is going to be needed for a while yet. How early were you supposed to be there? An hour ago. Of course. Should I be ready for a visit to the infirmary later? Trevi knows I don't keep my promises about being in the lab early. Hope you're looking forward to the lecture. Probably looking forward to all the ways he's going to try to avoid it. Cav snickered and downed the rest of his coffee before he stood and took his mug back to the kitchen. Don't worry about me. I know how to sweet-talk Trevi. Is that why the last time you tried to sweet-talk Trevi, you ended up with a poison quill in your hand? Which I had to remove, thank you. Poison quill? My eyebrows went way up. Oh my. Now I was even more interested in meeting Trevi. Well, see you around, Space Wizard. I waved, but he vanished into the hall without another look behind him. Always in like a whirlwind and out like the same. Every time. What an odd person. Though I didn't think I had a right to say that, probably. Still, Camarion, I should look it up later. Dabs, we've reached our target a little early. Mind coming up to the bridge? Sure thing, Noel. Ah, right, they were getting ready to do another dive. From what I remembered, that was why we weren't going to be working on the item cataloging right away. Just having a bit of a look. After this dive, Dabs would have more time, though, so I imagined we'd really get started on it tomorrow. Lane, why don't you come up as well? It would be good for you to observe our dive process, since this will be the last chance before we head in. Alright, I'll be up in a moment, too. I guess I'll see you all this evening. Same, I'll be heading down to the armory for now. See you two later. Kato nodded and headed into the corridor. Laren was right behind her. I stood and stretched, gathering up the remaining dishes while Daz gave me the basic stats of the black hole they were planning to check out. And then the two of us headed to the bridge together. Kato, as it turns out, was taking the long way around and, at least for now, was heading the same way we were, so Daz and I caught up to her on the way. So how many dives does the ship do on the average trip out this far? Depends on what we find. We can do up to 15. Sometimes we've done as few as 8. How many have you done already this trip? It's the 15th. We can't store much more electronic matter than this, so once we're out, we head back. And this time around, we found a lot out here, too, so we'll technically be heading back towards the main lines tomorrow, but it's quite a distance to the nearest far gate. Asher could get us there in a few folds, but usually we spend time in the outer meridians doing some stellar cartography on the way back in. And this time is no different. There are a few planetary systems we intend to survey along the way back. As I'm sure you've noticed, our assignments run the gamut. Our sister ship is a bit more specialized, but we're sort of the all-rounders of the group. How many vessels work for your company? Asher mentioned that there are a few. They have 2 research vessels they fund, but the company also owns a couple of cargo freighters and a small passenger ship. Oh, interesting. Asher mentioned it wasn't quite a fleet, but that was still more than I was expecting, honestly. How in-depth is your stellar cartography usually? Your labs are studying that dimensional sphere, for example. I assume you do a little more than just map what you find. I'd say it's moderate. It's not what our specialty is, but we're still a research ship, so we can do more than the bare minimum. So how many systems are we checking on during the trip back in? 4 probable star systems. 1 we're pretty sure is still forming, but we wanted to stop by to see the protoplanetary ring. 4, assuming no one chases us off from them. This crew has an annoying attack for finding uncharted worlds other people have laid claim to, which we don't find out about until we show up, and then the other people show up to yell at us. The way you say that suggests it makes your job somewhat more annoying that the crew has a knack for that. Well, not everyone out here is friendly. We always leave when we ask to. I mean, you don't know who might have their eye on an uncharted system until you know. We can only mark down their territory on the charts and move on. It's just that some don't ask nicely. It's not like everyone's claimed territory has clear demarcations and signs telling others to keep out. That's true. But we're pretty good at hightailing it at the first signs of aggression. I mean, we're not trying to trespass. It just comes with the whole exploring uncharted territory thing sometimes. Fortunately, today is just a dive, and on that note, this is where I'm turning off. See you two later. She headed down a corridor we were passing, nodding to Gates, who appeared to also be on his way up to the bridge. He slipped into place between me and Daz and gave me a slight grin as we continued. Haven't seen you much the past couple of days, Lane. Settling in alright? If I say no, do I get thrown out of an airlock? It's about what you'd expect, I suppose. I can't say much more than that. How do you know what I'd expect? Gates, I'm basically a psychic. I know. Oh, really? Well, in that case, Ms. Psychic, my expectation is that you're putting on a smile when you're around the rest of us, but you're actually struggling a bit. That you find everyone nice and accommodating, except Rafe, who is cranky, and Asher, who is too accommodating. Asher is fine. I find him fun. No accounting for taste, even among the elite, I suppose. Are you really doing okay, Lane? Do I not seem okay? I see you laughing a lot and maybe deflecting a little, so I worry. Humor is a valid coping method. Just because you laugh in the midst of a struggle, it doesn't mean the laugh isn't genuine. Haha, I guess that's true. My wife is the sort that always jokes around when things get rough, too. For a long time I thought it was because she was battling things up, but I guess I've learned it's not that she's following it up or not taking it seriously. It's just her strategy for muddling through. Mine too, most of the time, but I am muddling through. That's the important part. You don't have to worry about me, I promise. In the grand scheme of things, this is a passing rainstorm, that's all. I'm sure it gets frustrating to have everyone constantly fretting over you. I think in some ways this is just familiar territory for us. We all remember when Sim and Uren joined the crew. Sim had a reason to settle in fast, and there was someone to get her through the grief. Having Kay by her side helped a lot. Uren took a bit longer, understandably. Not that Sim just skipped over having lost the entire ship and everyone she knew. No one just gets over that, but having Kato made it easier than dealing with it alone. We all tried to be there for Uren, but, you know, I think none of us quite knew how to do it, and in some ways maybe it was harder than it should have been for him if we'd been a little more attentive. I suppose after seeing struggle, it means we're all trying a little harder this time. Not only psychic, you're the protagonist. Yep. Hang on. I forgot to check off my tracker. Okay. That's why we keep checking in on you, I guess. We all have a sense of having done this before and wanting to do it better this time. I hope it doesn't come across like badgering you or something. It wasn't badgering, and when they framed it in that way, I suppose it made more sense. It was almost not even about reassuring me, but reassuring themselves. It was important to remember that finding me was jarring and stressful for everyone else, too, in a lot of ways. Listen, I'm fine, and I'm going to continue to be fine. Coming to terms with everything is a process, and I'm sure it will be hard sometimes. I might slip backwards here and there, but I do appreciate that everyone checks in with me and wants to ensure I'm alright, and I really am okay. I'm glad to hear that. If you're ever not okay, well, there aren't that many to talk to when we're out here so far, but we're all pretty good at listening. Some of us are better than others at doing it without commentary. I'm sure it's not too hard to figure out who is who in that regard. I'll keep that in mind, but yeah, I think I can work it out. On another subject, how goes the item cataloging? I heard the two of you cracked into some of those glowy crates. Oh, we barely got started. We went through 1.5 crates before we had to step back to figure out how we want to manage this. No one wants Lane to do it alone, but as you can see, I'm needed up top today, so it'll be on hold until I get some free time after this dive. No luck on dragging Cab out of the labs? None at all. I don't know how much help I'd be, but I'd love to come down and have a look at things sometimes. Those Relayan symbols have me interested. At least some of them look orthographic. Curious about some of our written languages? Of course, it's what I do. I don't mind teaching you a little, though Valayans Valayans don't have a global language, and I only speak around 4-ish of their languages. 4 is still a lot. Not as impressive considering that I didn't learn them organically, but still. Which ones do you speak? Not that the names will mean anything to me, but I'm curious. Iswanian, Menti, and Varian are the main 3. Dasilian isn't commonly spoken. It's considered more of a scientific language. I can read it though, and I know bits of some others like Tenyu, just words and phrases. How many languages are there on your homeworld anyway? Several Terran languages were in use on Laertes. Several Terran languages were in use on Laertes from what I remember. I knew what Gates meant when he said homeworld, but I wasn't going to play along. I would be stubborn about this until the end of my days if I had to be. Surprise flashed on his face, followed by an apologetic smile. Sorry, I forgot you weren't born on Valea. No worries. Your father's homeworld then. How many languages were there on Valea? Do you know? I think there were around 70 still in regular use at the time I was there. Huh, not that many. Comparatively few, yes. Did you speak any other languages before going there? I spoke some Hiswanian. It was what my mother used when she spoke any Valayan languages at all, which was rarely. Learned the others when I spent some time on Valea. Interesting. Well, I'd be happy to learn something about Hiswanian or any of the others. Probably won't get another chance in this, so I have to take the opportunity while it's here. I'm not sure how good a teacher I'll be, but I don't mind showing you a little. Not that I expect you to have much use for it, even if you learn. Don't have to have a use for it. I just think it'll be interesting. Besides, if Valayans were as prolific in the past as you say, I bet you could do a little digging and find some linguistic connections with some of the worlds they influence. Seems like it would be a fun pet project. It seems like that would be a monumental undertaking for a pet project. Do you know how many languages you'd have to examine for etymological similarities? Oh yes, I definitely have a general idea. It sounds fun. It sounds like the exact opposite of fun. That's because you're not into languages the way Gates is. Don't even start. You'd be horrified to learn some of the research this guy does for fun. It's horrifying even for me, and I like doing research on random topics in my spare time. Seriously, massive research projects for fun. This was what it meant to be part of a crew of scientists, I suppose. Gates was unfazed by Dows's accusation and just gave me a slight shrug and a grin. Well, if he wanted to spend his time perusing thousands of languages to look for connections, who was I to stop him? We had to leave the conversation there for now, though, as we reached the bridge. The other two immediately went to their stations, leaving me to loiter by the door for a moment. But not for long. Noel spotted me and motioned me over to him. Took up a convenient place to watch everything as they prepared. All right, everyone. Last dive before we have nothing but planetary surveys on our way back in. Let's make it count. So we actually saw a dive in progress in the prologue, which I think I technically skipped it for the official stream of the game, but the demo included the prologue. Going to be hard to top the last one no matter what we do, Noel. Noel shot an amused look my way as I leaned against one wall, observing. Well, let's do our best. We don't know what's in there. Maybe we'll find my brother at this time. Noel gave me a look that said he found that considerably less humorous than I did. Thought about telling him that my brother was, as much as I hate to admit it, harder to catch than I was. But I just let him stew on it. EM drive is online, Operium cloud density is at 98.63%, and the connection with real-time and space remains stable. Rudimacher, take us in. Entering the outer ergosphere now, heading towards the event horizon. Space-time warping looks good. Oh, we'll cross in less than a minute. It was interesting. I'd never served on a diving vessel, and though I knew about the process, I'd never experienced it. Now, watching the shadow of the black hole loom ahead, bathed in the glow of the accretion disk, as we hurled towards it, speed accelerated by the ergosphere itself, it was one of the most awe-inspiring things I'd ever seen. We were protected from the intense gravitational effects only because of the EM drive. And then the whole viewport was filled with the shadow as Asher steered us in. There was a soft rumble as the ship crossed over the event horizon and everything outside went black as if someone had flipped a switch. The world line is... His voice cut off as the ship shook violently, sending us all scrambling to grab onto something. Noel gripped his console tight and I clung to a nearby support. Daz, Phrase, speak to me! I don't know what's causing this turbulence. The readings are... I don't know what I'm looking at. Asher, reverse course. I can't. I can only go forward, Noel. We'll have to wait until we're through it. I wasn't sure the ship could even hold itself together long enough for that to happen. The hull was groaning and creaking under the force of the powerful shaking. Of course it doesn't go well. Something had gone wrong, and for a long moment I truly wondered if we'd make it through. Then, without warning, all went still. For a moment everyone was silent as the crew tried to catch their breath and get their bearings. Cut the alarm gates. What the hell? I glanced his way, but he was staring at the main viewing port. What the hell am I looking at? Asher, you said you couldn't reverse course. I couldn't. I didn't. Daz? I don't know. I can confirm we crossed the event horizon, and it looks like we were pulled straight into the dimensional sphere, but we're inside the dimensional sphere? That doesn't look like a normal dimensional sphere. Because it's a fucking black hole, Asher. I can see that, Noel. Inside another black hole? Is that possible? Asher, keep our distance from that thing, Phrase. I want to know what's going on. Yeah, well, join the club. I have no idea what happened. Listen, I'd love to keep our distance, Noel, but I don't even know how far away it is. It seems a little small. This doesn't make any sense. Could we be looking at a primordial black hole? Black holes that formed during the early part of the universe's beginnings. Because these black holes formed before stars, they are considered to be among the oldest stellar objects in the universe. Ooh. No, it clearly has angular momentum, so it's formed from a rotating object. I've never heard of a star inside a dimensional sphere, but it wouldn't be the weirdest thing someone has found inside of one. Given the usual time discrepancies, it's conceivable a star had time to form and collapse within the dimensional sphere. I frowned and eyes narrowed. I moved from my position to get a better look. This was... What the hell is happening up there, Noel? We're still trying to figure it out, Rafe. We'll figure it out fast. The M drive is... I don't know what's going on, but whatever it is, I don't think it's going to hold out for long. We're doing everything we can to keep it from overheating right now. Trust me, Rafe, we're on it. Manage it as long as you can. Graves, help me out here. How the hell did this thing form? How did it not destabilize the sphere and fall into the singularity? Can't answer that. All the readings we're getting are extremely distorted. How did it manage to form an accretion disk? There shouldn't be enough matter inside to... I don't think it's real, despite what your ship's sensors might be saying. There's a brief silence. Sure as hell looks real to me. I think what we're seeing is a reflection of the exterior of the black hole. From inside the dimensional sphere? That's inside the black hole? I know it sounds weird, but I think I read something about this phenomenon while on Valea. It's called a dimensional loop. I don't understand it well. Astrophysics isn't my forte, and information was scattered. From what I remember, it's due to a dimensional sphere collapse. It begins to fall in on itself to the point that it sort of turns itself and everything around it inside out. That's why we can see a reflection of the outside of the black hole. You'll have to forgive my explanations. It's been a long time. How do we navigate back out? I have no idea. On one hand, my console readout suggests our only path is through the event horizon in front of us. But I can tell you for sure our ship will be destroyed if we even try it. I can confirm that. I can't see the boundary of the dimensional sphere. But given the extreme warping of space, I suspect if we try to just reverse course, we'll head straight into that reflection or whatever it is. I don't know how to navigate out. I don't even know which way we came in anymore. Lane? Glanced his way, licking my lips nervously. Technobabble ho! I'm following some of it. Please tell me we can get back out. Doubt my father sent me here just to die like this, so probably. Said astrophysics wasn't my forte at all. Well, the data on this phenomenon had to come from somewhere, so I'm going with yes. Sure, anything is possible. There's always a solution, no? We just have to find it. We can get back out. It may just take some trial and error. We're gonna go with this one. I don't recall any specific information about an escape from a dimensional sphere. It's possible it was there and I just never specifically read it. That said, the information I did read had to come from somewhere. Someone saved these before, which means they would have had a way to get out. Just have to find one too. That doesn't sound promising, considering the difference in level between Valayan technology and what we have at our disposal. You'd be surprised to learn that Valayans use very similar technology to traverse black hole interiors, Dad, so don't count us out just yet. I suppose we have to take what we can get at this point. Remember that when you don't have a hyper-advanced technology at your disposal, you have unlimited resourcefulness. Take this from someone who's seen both sides. I am glad to hear you think so. I have faith in this crew's ability to get out of tough situations, because if you weren't able to do that, you wouldn't survive out here. Faint, nervous smile came to his lips, and he gave me a half nod. Alright, everyone else, ideas? Anyone? Before the EM drive gives out, preferably? Well, if the drive gives out, I don't imagine we'll be around to worry about the situation very long after. Thanks for that phrase. Anyone else? I think I can get us back out of the sphere. Not sure about what happens after that. Get us out how? I believe I can hear the way out. Think you can pilot us out only based on Star Song? Well, I think it's about the only thing we can try. I've been listening to it this whole time, and I believe I can do it. But this is just getting out of the sphere, Noel. It'll be on the others to track the world lines back across the event horizon. He glanced my way as if wanting a validation this was the right choice. I nodded slightly. Okay, Asher, looks like we don't have much choice but to rely on you. I'm on it. Asher's demeanor transformed from the usual joking and flirting. His expression was taut and focused as his seat slid to the right to access different controls. Everyone else was tense but glued to their stations. I was the only one simply watching. Noel had taken a position near the pilot's area to assist because Asher might be slow to respond to other situations when he was engulfed in Star Song and trying to navigate the ship out. Brave, how's the companion chamber? It's fine. Why do you want to know? We'll be activating it in a few seconds. Are you fucking serious? Is Asher going to try to fold in here? Calm down. No one is holding anything. We just need its amplification. Fine. We'll keep a watch on it. I hope you people know what the fuck you're doing. So do I. Seconds later, the familiar hum of the companion chamber started buzzing at the back of my head. Probably the closest I'd ever come to hearing what a virtuoso did. Asher went partially limp in his seat, and there was a dead silence on the bridge as he tried to pilot us out of the sphere. Asher? I know. His eyes were glued to the viewport as the ship shuddered and groaned. I reached for the support again, holding on tight. The turbulence was more severe than when we first entered the sphere. Whether that was good or bad, I didn't know. We could only hold on and hope for the best. Almost there. Damn it, Noel, we can't handle much more of this. Noel? I know. And then the ship went still again, almost as if on command. I think I did it. Talk to me, Grace. Asher's right. I believe we've crossed the outside boundary of the sphere and back into the black hole interior. I think so too. Most of our readings have gone back to normal for a black hole interior. That's good news. I don't know if it is or not. I can't. Phrase? Help? What's going on? We've lost connection to the world line, Noel. Ah, that was somewhat alarming. The world line was the only thing that connected everything and everyone on this ship with the outside universe. I frowned and stared outside. What does that mean? It means what I said. We've lost the calculations for the world line trajectory of the ship, Noel. We can't get back out of this thing safely without a world line connection. Who the hell knows where we'd end up? If we'd end up anywhere. Asher, keep us well away from that singularity, the dimensional sphere, everything. Noel strode back across the bridge, joining Fraser at his station, looking down at the paddle. Can you get the connection back? I don't know. The world lines appear to have been cut off entirely when we entered the dimensional loop. I can't find them. I narrowed my eyes, moving closer to the viewport. I'm seeing something that might be a world line remnant, but it's so distorted I can't get a clear view of it. The computer can't calculate the equation from whatever it is we're seeing. I don't think the world lines are fully cut off. I turned towards the others, a frown still on my face as I tried to mentally suss out how to explain this. I think that what may have happened is that the world lines were twisted up, wound into a knot by the distortions caused by the dimensional loop. That's probably why the computer can't get a good read of them now. That does make sense in a way, though I'm not sure what you're basing it on. Call it Valayan intuition. I'm not an expert on dives like this, but my understanding is that your calculations are based on the combined world lines of everything on the ship, because everything here shows a very similar immediate trajectory. Basically, yes. If they're tangled, then it might be easier to find one world line we can trace back to the outside. Then you can try to extrapolate everything else from that. How exactly are we going to do that? Our MBs can't even find that much right now. Multi-beam scanner, or MBs for short, are a common type of scanner array used by Terrans and many other species associated with the UCW. It's currently the top scanning technology available. I can do it, Phrase. This is sort of Valayan bread and butter. World lines are just paths. Most Valayans could find these things in their sleep. Instead, you're bad at being a villain. Amused, chagrined, irritated, reassuring, sardonic, confident. Where's my dice? Ugh. Okay, there we go. So I don't know if I'm gonna actually do what the dice says. I'm just going to see what I get. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Confident. Okay, we're gonna go with that. I laughed at the doubt in his voice. Probably a little too hard from the look on his face. Despite how funny it was that he mentioned that again, I tried to look at least a little like I knew what I was doing, because for something like this, I did. Mostly. Even most inept villains can at least see the paths and all. I can do this much. Ask me to manipulate them or adjust them or do a deep dive into your future, we're in trouble. But looking, I gotcha. Then I guess I'll have to put faith in your confidence and your ability. Let's do it. Right, now I just have to follow through. I glanced back at Daz and Fraze. Their expressions were grave, so I smiled in what I hoped was a reassuring way. It's going to be okay. I'll find enough to get your equations for you. It was true I was bad at many things to do with the paths, but what I was specifically bad at was looking ahead or looking back to exact points. Navigating. This was just looking. Finding. I could do it. I could do this. I shut my eyes to block out my surroundings. Laying out of breath, I opened my mind and tried to peer across that boundary between the real and the ethereal, without stepping across it. I hated that uncomfortable cold sensation of reality dropping away as I stood on the ledge with a yawning void before me. But this time at least I didn't have to walk over the edge, simply look into the darkness to find that silver flat cord that tied my fate to the rest of the universe. All I saw at first was a faint tangle, a messy knot of fate, the leftovers after the dimensional loop chewed up our paths and spit them out. Oh, that looks pretty cool. Just fighting it wasn't difficult, but there's no untying that mess. Still, I only had to find one thread that was traceable to the outside. As I suggested to Noel, mine would be easiest, but one of the others would do just as well. If I could even find a single connection to the outside, we could calculate as much as possible, then let the event horizon do the rest as we passed back through. The process was like clawing through the rubbish to find something thrown away by accident. Fortunately, finding my own world line didn't take long, but tracing the slack silvery rope through the other tightly woven paths belonging to every person, every item on the ship, that part was much harder than I thought. Like clinging to Ariadne's thread to find my way out of a labyrinth, I managed to work it free and follow it until it disappeared beyond the event horizon. Oh, okay, I know that exact reference. That's, going back to Greek mythology. The other world lines were sticking to it, making them easier to see as well. And somewhere in the back of my mind I had the thought that perhaps it would have been harder had the crew truly been strangers, but the way our paths were interwoven suggested we were more than that. Nature. Might be that fact alone that would make this work. I found it. Daz's station was closest to where I was, so I fumbled my way to him, burning the trajectory of our paths into my mind. Ignoring the disbelieving look on his face, I leaned over him and steadied his shaking hand on the controls. Everyone put up such a calm face that I'd almost forgotten about the thrum of terror vibrating through the room. I gave his hand a slight squeeze. We'll be okay. I've reestablished my connection to the outside. All we have to do is follow it back out. Translating what I saw to their equations wasn't as simple as it sounded, of course. They called down to the labs to get Cav to weigh in as well. But once I pointed them in the right direction, Daz, Cav, and Fraze were able to fill in the gaps. Cav really was a lifesaver in that regard. All I had to do was hold tight to my own path so I could help pull us out if needed to. It'll be a rough journey back out. Our world lines are only about 92% intact. I'm not sure what effect this will have on the ship when we cross the event horizon, Noel. Understood. As long as the hull's intact and the crew is safe, that's all that matters. I think that's the part we're unsure about. You've done the best you can. That's what matters. Everyone, this is your captain speaking. We're going to attempt to exit the black hole. It'll be a bumpy ride, so hold on tight. You better do it fast, Noel. The EM drive can't hold out much longer. I figured as much, Rafe. Just do your best. Noel set a hand on my shoulder on his way to one of the empty seats, motioning me to one as well. He kept an eye on my world line as the others tried to drag the ship back outside. If they lost connection again, that may be the end, but in the worst case scenario, I'd do what I could. The poor ship was shuddering as the Ophelia tore its way beyond the event horizon. At several points I heard Rafe shouting across the comm channel about the EM drive overheating. For a split second in the midst of it, the panic and chaos around me went dark. An ominous feeling swept over my mind as I clung to the world line leading outside the black hole. There was a sense of something crumpling in the paths, ripping apart. It felt like an echo and a faint vibration, or a ripple in an otherwise glass-smooth pond. My breath caught in my throat as the ship burst free of the black hole, and I severed myself from the paths, retracting my mind and shutting myself off from that part of space and time. Thankfully, Noel was on his feet and across the bridge talking to the others. I don't think he noticed me panicking. If anyone did, they'd just assume it was due to everything else. What was that? Asher, get us to a safe distance. I don't know how much more the ship can take of these tidal forces. I'd like to be in the clear before the drive gives out. I'm on it. No, what? We're trying to handle it, Rafe. Try harder. Damn it, Sim. We have another fire over here.
Warning.
There was a blaring alarm and the comm cut off. Brace yourselves. Wait, what are you? Asher, don't. Before Noel could make him not use a natural hold to get the ship a safe distance from the black hole, he'd already done it. The ship jolted one more time, nearly sending me to the floor, but we made it in one piece and everything returned to the usual calm. Asher, damn it, that was reckless as hell. But it worked. I didn't know if Asher was lucky or just that good, because a fold in that close of proximity to a black hole was generally not recommended. And yet, we survived. EM drive is dead, Noel, and the Simpanian chamber was not a fan of whatever the hell Asher just pulled, so I hope you're not planning on any more folds for a while. Well, we're still alive. And well outside the danger zone, thanks to that maneuver. How's the, fire? Out, thankfully. We'd appreciate a few helping hands down here, though. I'll be right there. Thanks, Daz. You were saying? I think you were saying that was reckless as hell. But probably a good idea. If the EM drive gave out before we were in the clear... He flopped back in his chair. What is with our luck at the moment? Did we piss off someone we shouldn't have? I noticed several amused stares aimed my way. Don't look at me. That whole space goddess thing is Rafe's invention. Maybe someone's looking out for us. If the little wizard wasn't here, that might have been a tough one. Wow, I don't usually expect optimism from you, Cap. That brush with death changed your outlook? Who knows? Grace, get me a status report. I want to know how much damage we did to the ship and how long repairs are going to take. The detailed report is going to take some time, but everyone is already sending their cursory reports. At a glance, damage is moderate. We're going to have some repairs to handle for sure. I'll get you more details once everything is compiled. For the moment, Laren's reporting a couple of injuries, nothing major. Lorenz reported a few stress cracks in the microdome down in the garden. And it looks like there's some damage down in Space Lab 01. Microdome. Microarchitecture is a material made from the mycelia of fungi. Structures made of mycelia are grown and coaxed into specific shapes with various types of specific properties. It is considered a form of bioorganic technology. That sounds cool. And it looks like there was some damage down Space Lab 01. I'm betting the holds are a mess, probably some damaged cargo, so we'll have to have someone take a look at that. Alright, keep me updated. Noel? What's up? I'm noticing an inconsistency with the ship's internal clocks and our current position in relation to the galactic center. Yeah, I can see that same thing on my end. We'll have to wait until the next tachyon beacon to double check, but based on what I'm seeing, we may have been in there a little longer than it seemed. How much longer? Just based on this readout, it looks like the food is off by about 12 full day cycles. 12 days? Ouch. All things considered, we're lucky that's all it is. I know the EM drive protects us from the effects of the time dilation, but given what we just went through, I'll confirm the time with when the next UC beacon comes through. Based on the ship's clocks, it should be 15 minutes, but I don't know how much they could be off. Alright, well let me know on that one too. And Lane. What is it? We're going to need an official report on this one. I'm not quite sure how to handle it given what we talked about before regarding your identity, but I'll figure that out on my own. In the meantime, mind writing up what you know about these dimensional loops? I'd like to incorporate as much info as we can in the report, and if it's just officially a theory. Of course, it's not much though. Anything is appreciated, and thanks. You helped us out a lot just now. Not something that needs thanks. He gave a slight nod and turned away again. Grace, I want some warning tags sent out, and we'll update our charts to make sure everyone knows to stay the hell away from this lady. Good idea. Compile all our readings and scans and send it down to the lab. It'll give them something else to focus on for a while, that's for sure. Thanks a lot. And no more dives for a while. I think between this and the last one, we should cut our losses and stick with planetary surveys for the next 10 trips. I definitely can't agree with that. Despite the close call earlier in the day and the many repairs that were going to remind us about it all the way to space dock, the crew had already somewhat moved on by evening. There was some chatting about it earlier as everyone gathered in the galley, but no longer. Conversation had moved to repairs and then to other things. I was always impressed by the resilience of space hounds like these. Well, like myself too, really. We all nearly died, and yet we just got on with life, didn't we? Because that was part of what it meant to be out here in the deep. There was an undercurrent of disquiet too, though. They were good at ignoring it, but it was there. I suppose that was how we could move on and laugh about other things. Drivers in particular had to learn not to dwell on the dangers because they were everywhere out here. After the subsequent tachyon beacon, the one Gates had been waiting on, we confirmed we had been inside the black hole for what amounted to 12.37 days out here. More time lost. Though 12 days was nothing compared to 500 years, it was still a little strange to think about. Noel made the call to cut a couple of stops out of the journey back. Not all of them, just enough to make up for the 12 missing days. But we were lucky we hadn't been stuck for longer, not just because the EM drive gave out, which would have meant getting crushed and all. Who knows how the uneven passage of time could have turned out? I had already lost a few centuries. Maybe the thought it could have happened to the rest of the crew as well was the source of the disquiet. I was sitting on my own in the rec room watching the stars pass beyond the hazy distortion of the meridian we were currently surfing. Even inside the meridians, we were just cruising at subluminal speeds while Rafe got the engine and hull back into optimum shape. Apparently it would be a day or so before Asher could do another fold. The black hole that nearly killed us was already far behind. The others were nearby, their voices a quiet murmur around me. It had been a long day and it was getting late, and some of the others had already started to clear out. I was also pretty tired. I spent the rest of the afternoon helping Uren patch some inner cracks in the microdome down in the garden. Maintenance drones had taken care of the external cracks, but they had a lot of other repairs to manage. Uren and his assistant had to handle the damage inside. While his assistant was handling some of the minor damage to the plants and irrigation, or just cleaning up things that had been displaced by turbulence, Uren was working on the dome. He'd have had to manage it by himself if I didn't help out. It was my first actual work as part of the crew, and one thing I learned was I was still extremely ungraceful while wearing an anti-grav pack. Not exactly a revelation I felt I needed. But after bumping my head more than once on the damn dome because I couldn't quite get the hang of moving around in microgravity, I felt that any lingering awe over my having helped us find our way out of that black hole might have been extinguished. So, there's a game called Outer Worlds where you basically use something similar. Hang on. The stream on my tablet got frozen. But yeah, on Outer Worlds you're basically using a jetpack, which is kind of the same thing. And I was horrible at it. I ended up, basically, I bought it on Steam, I tried it out, and I was like, this isn't going to work, and I was able to get a refund because of how quickly I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Who could respect a space wizard that kept bumping her head on the damn ceiling? Not Uren, if his laughter was anything to judge by, or his assistant, Mila. They promised not to tell the others. Then Uren immediately told Daz, who then blurted it out again in front of Rafe. The teasing over dinner had been endless, though I didn't mind it at all. I looked up as there was another small exodus from the rec room. Maybe I should go rest too. I could feel my eyelids drooping as I watched the windows, lulled into an easy security by everyone's casual conversation and laughter around me. But it wouldn't do to fall asleep here. Then again, it wasn't like getting teased about falling asleep in the rec room would be worse than Larry checking if I was concussed in front of everyone earlier. Thinking about it again made me laugh to myself as I sat up and bit back a yawn. Okay. Okay. This is actually a callback to conversations with your potential love interest about what you do when you're tired but unable to sleep. Just stay here a little while longer. Perhaps I'll go to the observatory before turning in. Could use a cup of tea before bed. A visit to the garden would be nice right now. Maybe I should have a bit of a walk before going to sleep. Might stop by the bridge to look at the stars for a while. I'm trying to remember which was which. I'm missing a page of notes. That's not, that's weird. Because I have 4 pages of notes. I should have 5. But the only other page of notes I have is for Changeling. Nope, that's not it. Oh, I know what that's for. That's not for this. Oh! Here we go. These are my notes for playing. But I'm still missing one. Because this is only 5. I mean 5 total, and there's, wait, brain, please. Okay, 6 love interests, and I've done, and I have 5, okay. It is fine. Okay. Excuse me. Let's go to the observatory. I decided to slip out and maybe head to the observation deck for a while. Looking at the stars for a while would help put my mind at ease. Out in the corridor, I stretched my arms above my head. A thin groan escaped as the kinks worked their way out of my spine. What a day. Couldn't decide if it felt like life came back to normal or if it was absurd to count something like today as normal. It wasn't even around the mill for a ship like this to encounter something so rare. Ugh. I didn't want to keep ruminating on it. It's just another thing that was already behind us. Made my way down to the observation deck, only to realize there was someone there before I arrived. A familiar presence. Daz. My range was getting better. I hadn't tried to stretch out and see if it was totally back to normal, but at least for now I didn't think I would struggle to sense things in other parts of the ship. So that was good, at least. Do I want to stick with this one or try to... Huh. Interesting. I'm gonna go back and try one of the other options. I feel like going by the bridge would lead to a talk with Asher, going for a walk. Let's see what the infinity says. Interesting which ones go up. Let's stop at the bridge. Everyone was off duty, so the ship was being piloted by the AI at the moment. It should be quiet up there. The observation deck might be better for star viewing, but I had a sneaking suspicion Daz would be down there since it was his favorite spot. That's right. Not that I was trying to avoid him, but I didn't want to get caught up in a conversation after seeking the meditative solace of stargazing. Huh. Cab. Okay. We'll stick with that. So somewhere quiet like the bridge would work better. Slipped to the door, but Gates caught my eye before I left, waving as I passed. Heading off? Yeah. Long day. Tell me about it. You did good though. You know, saving the ship and all. Everyone else too. It was a group effort. Sure. See you in the morning, Lane. Good night. It was a short walk up to the bridge, and I didn't see another soul on my way there. Things were definitely winding down for the night. It was, as expected, empty when I arrived. I hesitated momentarily before finding my way across the room to stand in front of the main viewport. The dark night, lit only by millions of pinpricks of light, was flowing past as we continued on our journey. The wobbly boundaries of the meridian we were using to boost our speed were barely visible, bobbing past as slight distortions against the starry backdrop. It gave a sense of swaying motion, though the ship was steady. I knew it made some people ill, but for me it was just relaxing. Though the emptiness was a comfort without anything else to occupy my thoughts, I couldn't help but return to what had happened earlier today. Yeah, it might have been better to just go straight to bed. That helpless sense of being caught while staring into the paths. I didn't want to think about that. It would have just been me that got caught up in it, but if something swallowed me up before I could point the ship in the right direction, maybe it would have gone bad for everyone. Especially with our paths so tightly tangled, it could have spotted them as well. That's why I hate doing that stuff. Still, I was glad it had turned out to be nothing, or that I disconnected from the paths fast enough to not be followed. I let out a soft sigh and shut my eyes, biting back a yawn. Maybe it was time for sleep. There was a noise behind me, and I twisted around to see that someone else had entered the bridge behind me. The one person aboard whose presence I couldn't immediately sense without looking. Oh, hello again. I paused, realizing when the thought bounced off him that he couldn't hear that. Cleared my throat and tried again. Hi, I didn't expect to see anyone else here. I come sometimes at night. Daz is in the observatory, and he'll talk my ear off if I let him. I don't mind it, but sometimes I just want quiet. So even you want peace and quiet sometimes. Please, Ildewin, you don't know me near as well enough to know what I want or don't want sometimes. I've heard things. I'm sure you have. He hesitated in the door a moment, then came all the way inside, joining me in front of the large viewport. I thought the crew was done for this time. Never expected a fancy Archaean would show up and save the day. I guess that's what scions supposedly do, show up and risk everything to save us peons. I didn't risk everything. Yeah, I suppose that's something science has never had to do. Well, given his specialty, you probably knew at least as much as Daz about Valayans, I'd assume. I wasn't up for correcting his use of scion every time, but the way he said it like it was an insult was interesting. Reminded me a little of Rafe. I reckon something like that was just a breeze for a person like you. Okay, so we're gonna come down here to the cow. It wasn't a breeze, and it wasn't without risk. It wasn't that simple, not to be called a breeze, and it wasn't without risk either. I'm not good at things like that, at the paths and things to do with them. It's just that this one was a little less tricky than other things. Finding a present world line isn't a problem, as long as I don't look too deep, I'm usually okay. Just like swimming in the shallow end. It's not a terrible analogy, but there are dangerous things in the shallow end sometimes, too. He gave me a long look before turning his gaze back to the stars beyond the viewport. Maybe even further. That sounds about right. Still, I guess we're all alive because of you. Not just me. Asher got us out of the dimensional loop and then away from the black hole before the EM drive gave out. I'm sure Rafe worked some magic to keep the EM drive up as long as he did. And even if I found part of the world line, Daz and Fraze had to calculate the equations. You should know. You helped. They got us back out despite them being incomplete. Ha! How modest. You're saying it was a team effort then? Why are you saying that like you expected me to take all the credit? He grinned at me, and for the first time it looked genuine. I definitely expected that. Aren't Archaeans supposed to be arrogant bastards? I guess some of them are, but, and I know I keep saying this, I grew up Terran, you know. I have spent a long time regretting the fact I wasn't satisfied with that, and now I'll probably spend even more time regretting it. So I do like to think I picked up some of their good qualities and maybe sidestepped some of the negative qualities of Belayans. Not that Terrans aren't arrogant as fuck sometimes, too. Haha, well, that's true. I guess it's not exclusively an Archaean trait. It's strange that a few days after waking up from your mighty slumber, we ran into an irregular dimensional sphere only you could help us with. That is strange, though, to be fair, I suspect stranger things happen all the time. Maybe it was luck rather than simply strange. Some would argue luck doesn't exist. Space wizards don't believe in luck? Most Belayans believe in what you'd call fate. Most of us mere mortals believe you can change your fate to whatever you want. If you can change it, then it can't be called fate, can it? He looked at me a long time, lips curled into that same smile. Exactly my point, isn't it? Otherwise, it means we were fated to find you, and you were fated to save our asses today, yeah? I already said it was a group effort. I didn't save the crew, I just worked with everyone to get us out of a mess. In any case, no offense, but I didn't come up here to have a conversation about heavy topics like fate. Maybe another time when I'm not nursing a headache from smacking repeatedly into the microdome while wearing an anti-grav inducer? He stared at me and then burst out laughing as if the thought of me bumping my head was the most hilarious thing he'd ever heard. I assumed he'd heard about it already, but I guess not. I should have kept my mouth shut. It's not that funny. I don't know, the thought of our mighty space wizard concussing herself on the microdome is pretty damn hilarious, actually. Thanks. Amazing how you can almost die, and you still have to go about your day patching up cracks or cleaning up the pot plants that fell over when you almost died. That's life, I guess. Always an annoying blend of extreme excitement and the utterly mundane clashing in the most headache-inducing way. Space wizard philosophy. I never thought the day would come I'd be graced with such wisdom. I know a lot of space wizards who would say you still haven't been graced with much wisdom if I'm the only Belayan you've met. I did hear a rumor you're bad at being a space wizard. I am, but for the record, Rafe is the only person on the ship or in this galaxy that calls me that. Yeah, he's the one that told me. I figured. I guess you don't have to be the best at being a Belayan anyway. As long as you're good enough to occasionally get your crewmates out of a pinch, that's good enough. Aww. And I suppose if you're decent enough at micro-patch jobs, concussions or no, then it makes up for the rest. I did not concuss myself, thank you. It was a minor bump on the head. Right, of course. And for a moment we were just silent, both smiling slightly as we watched the stars get together. When I cast a look his way, his eyes were shut, though, and it made me think he was enjoying the silence more than the stars. Pretty. I'm not normally a fan of scruff on guys, but that looks pretty good. Though this wasn't the only place you could get silence. It wasn't bad when he was being quiet, but the rest of the time I was still trying to work out if he was irritating or interesting. Then again, those weren't mutually exclusive traits. I wondered if he really did just give everyone a hard time, or if there was something in particular that made him more guarded around me. I didn't know anyone on the ship well, but Cav felt like more of a mystery than the others somehow. Cav's eyes opened, and for a moment we just looked at each other. His lips turned up at the corners, and I thought he'd make some kind of remark about me staring at him, but he didn't. Instead, he looked away, and the smile vanished as his eyes once again traced the path of the stars flying past outside. He finally let out a chuckle and straightened, though I wasn't sure what he was laughing at. I guess I won't bother you any more. Just came up to look at the stars before bed. I never said you were bothering me. Sure. See ya, Idolwyn. He gave me a cockeyed grin and vanished out the door a few seconds later. Yeah, that definitely meant Space Wizard, or something similar. Thanks a lot, Rafe. Even so, a slight laugh escaped me too. These people were amusing in their own way. And Cap was interesting, a little weird. Or maybe eccentric was more correct, though I suppose every ship had at least one oddball like him. It wasn't all that bad. I watched the stars a little while longer on my own before I too abandoned the bridge and headed to my room. It had been a long day, and I was looking forward to getting some sleep and putting it behind me. I was dreaming. I was fairly certain I was dreaming, because somewhere, in an isolated corner of my mind, I was watching events play out in the detached sort of way you only did when you were caught up in a dream. The greater part of me kept forgetting it wasn't real every time I became preoccupied with what was happening. This time I was in a dark cave with eerie violet light feeding into it from somewhere else. The walls were embedded with glistening stars that flickered and soft and endless. As spider webs of infinite silken paths crisscrossed in front of me, obscuring the road I was following. I had somehow become entangled in them. They stuck to my clothes, my hair, filtered into my mouth, tasting like ash. They covered my eyes like a blindfold. I fought against them, trying to get free, only to become more tightly tangled. Get off! My words trailed into a loud, incomprehensible garble. It was strange how I could always speak clearly in my dreams. My voice would often resonate so clearly I didn't even sound like me. It was one of the details that always clued me into being in a dream. I struggled against the web, still unable to free myself from the thread-like paths while I'm so tight around my arms and legs. I was dimly aware of something coming towards me. The blue light was growing in intensity, and my frantic efforts to free myself were getting me nowhere. No, no, no! I tried to shout, but speaking was suddenly difficult, like trying to form words around a mouthful of glue. Numbness crept into my limbs, a familiar sensation that reminded me once again this wasn't real. I tried to force myself awake before the numbness overtook me. Instead of jolting awake the way I wanted, I crawled into wakefulness to find myself pinned to my bed by my own body, which refused to cooperate no matter how hard I tried to sit up. And in the dark and quiet, an uncanny sensation crept over me. The all-encompassing fear of something lurking just beyond my peripheral swept over me as I tried frantically to speak, to sit up, to do anything. And as much as I tried, I couldn't ward off the choking panic so powerful it was hard to breathe. I knew what this was. I knew what was happening. But the dread still gnawed at me until I could only draw in ragged breaths as I tried with great desperation to make my body move. My fingers, my toes, anything. It was a horrifying eternity before the numbness began to fade, and elated, I kept trying to move my hands until it was finally gone, leaving only itchy tingling behind. The entire experience dissipated in seconds, taking with it the sense that I wasn't alone, and instead of afraid, I was just suddenly tired. Heart pounding hard, I rolled over and buried my face in the pillow. Ugh. I hated this. It wasn't the first time since waking from the cube, but it was awful nonetheless. Every single time. I rolled over again, this time glaring up at the ceiling. Laren and I had already had a discussion about this, the nightmares, the sleep paralysis. They assumed it was a residual effect of the long-term stasis. I'd even done research on it to learn more than the overview they'd given me, not that it helped. It was annoying that even when I knew what was happening while it was happening, I couldn't hold the profound fear at bay. I had thankfully never had to worry about sleep paralysis. It swallowed me whole every time, leaving me drained and frustrated when it passed. I tossed my arm over my eyes with another groan. At least this time it wasn't a dream where I was stuck in the stasis cube. That one was the worst. This one was new, probably some leftover anxiety from what had happened the prior day. I'd never had nightmares before this. I hated I was having them so often now, even though Laren assured me they would pass. I sat up, rubbing my face with a weary groan. No one on the ship would be impressed with this supposed space goddess if they could see me trembling in my bed in a cold sweat because of a stupid dream. My hand found its way to the back of my neck as I stretched the tense muscles. I wanted to sleep more. Excuse me, but it was almost time to get up anyway, so I crawled out of bed, thinking a very, very hot shower was in order. Then I'd head to the galley and raid the cryo store of tangerines to make myself feel better. I just wanted to feel like everything had returned to normal. Craved that moment. When it would arrive, I still didn't know. I had been in the shower when that creeping sensation of someone watching me returned. It was just a lingering disquiet from the nightmare, surely, but instead of a long, luxurious shower where I drowned the stress in waves of steam, I cut the shower short and fled my quarters just because I thought a change of scenery would help clear the remnants of the nightmare from my head. Then, as I started towards the galley, I thought I saw a person duck around the corner up ahead, so that was totally not creepy. Ooh, that was creepy. But I didn't sense anyone there, which was not helping the paranoia fade. Under normal circumstances, I would not have thought anything about this, or at least not that much. But at the moment, I was on edge. Ugh. Okay. We're gonna let the dice decide this one. If I can find D4. There it is. One, two, three, four. 2. Yeah, no, we're leaving that. Did I save it? I don't think I did. So I decided that, yeah, no, I would be leaving now. Thank you. I was definitely not going to look around that corner. I wheeled around and went right back the way I came. Paranoia? Maybe. Just maybe. There were far too many things in space and time that were not friendly for me to assume it was fine. When I heard a bizarre whisper coming scuttling behind me, I wasn't even surprised. I thought it said, "There you are," and that was even more of a note from me, so I broke into a full run. No thank you. It wasn't until I rounded a corner and slammed right into someone I did not sense standing there at all that I realized how my behavior might look to other people. Ah. Good morning. In a hurry? Not really. Kind of. I'm going to the galley. He studied my face for a very long and very uncomfortable moment. He glanced past me, then around the corner, then back at me. Rough morning. Okay, sure. I'm not going to pry into why a rough morning translates into you running into my arms, but I guess I shouldn't complain. I wasn't running into your arms exactly. Then why'd you end up in my arms? Random chance? I hear tell that some people refer to that as fate. Though you have to admit that fundamentally random chance doesn't exist. Everything can be predicted as long as you have the tools to make the calculations. But how could I predict running into a frightened space wizard this early in the morning? I don't think... He took a step towards me, and I'm not sure why I stepped away from him, but my back hit the wall and he smirked, inching a little closer. Why don't you tell me what you were running from? I wasn't running from anything, just running. He chuckled, his fingertips straying to his lips. Sure, let's just say that's true, I guess. Hey there, what are you two doing up so early? Cal stepped back at the sound of Gate's voice, still smirking as he looked that way. Nothing much, I was just having a touching salutation in the corridor, obviously. Where are you off to this morning? Heading to the galley for some breakfast. Want to come with? Afraid not. I'm on my way to the bridge before everyone else gets up there. I think Lane was heading that way when we ran into each other, though. Well, I wasn't running. She was in an awful big hurry, though. Must be hungry. A little, yeah. Great, then we can head there together. In that case, I'll see you kids later. Please feed our little wizard well, Gates. Little wizard well. There we go. I don't know why that was hard for me to get out. He grinned and shoved his hands into his pockets as he stepped past me. See you later, Anarl. He disappeared down the corridor I'd just come from. It was a weird interaction, but I had broken the sense of paranoia that had been following me all morning, so I guess I should be grateful for that. What does Anarl mean? I have no idea. Well, he has a nickname for everyone, so who knows? Does he? Unlike you, he's completely refused to give me even the slightest hint about Cimmerian too. You won't even tell me if it's called Cimmerian. That seems very like him. It really is. Anarol. I'll have to note it down in the book. Book? Of Cimmerian words I do not know the meanings of. And somehow having a book of random words seemed very like Gates. So anyway, you said you're hungry? I can make breakfast for you if you like. I'll have you know I'm the best cook aboard. He motioned for me to follow and led me down the corridor, telling me about how he was definitely a better cook than Noel. The anxiety from before receded as he chatted with me, and when we reached the galley a few minutes later, we found Daz there. Of course. And talking with the two of them, that's right, Daz doesn't sleep as much. Listening to Daz explain that we were going to start earnestly working on cataloging the Dark World items while Gates cooked, finally pushed the nightmares to the corner so I could forget about them for a while. Everything was business as usual by the time Noel and some of the others began to filter in, ready to start their day as well. Whatever inner demons were determined to make my mornings a disaster had been put back to rest for now, reminding myself that eventually they'd fade for good. Eventually. Okay. Chapter 4. Yep. Okay. So that's it for today. So we're finishing a little early, but that's okay. Navigation, there we go. So let's go to the gallery. Look! Cat pictures. Just paging through. Okay. Okay. Main menu. Where is it? Title. There we go. Okay. So thank you everyone for watching. For joining me. We will get to chapter 4 next week. And honestly, it seems like I'm going to be going for a cab here because, as irritating as he is, there's something that's very intriguing about him. And I like that you can't tell if he's intriguing or irritating, or both, and that's kind of fun. So I'll have to start a separate Asher playthrough later. So thank you all for joining me. This will go up on YouTube hopefully before next week's stream. Hopefully. I ended up actually just the VOD for the Shadow over Cyberspace. I just kind of forgot about it until yesterday, and I was like, oh shoot. But life has been a little crazy. Hopefully it'll settle down soon. Stay cool if it's warm, stay warm if it's cold, eat food, drink water, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Bye!